What's up, everybody? How's it going? We're back for week 2 of Backyard Trash Talk. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in again. Again, my name is Chris Anderson.
I'm John Ireland.
John Ireland. We're back for week 2. John, how are you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling good. A lot to talk about. Sports world's always moving, so we're excited to get started and right into it. You want to just hop right in?
Let's hop right in. So, first topic tonight we're going to go over is, kind of been going around the league a little bit. It's kind of this idea of picks versus players and where the value is. Kind of one of the big things that kind of sparked this debate, and John and I started talking about is Jordan Howard going to the Eagles for a 6th-round pick. Now, John, 6th-round pick for a guy like Jordan Howard. You think he had a great couple of years with the Bears, productive. How are they only getting the 6th round of it? What do you think about only getting a 6th round out of a player of that kind of quality?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. The Eagles have definitely been doing this strategy. They had Jay Ajayi. They picked up Darren Sproles. So they're getting like second life running backs a lot. And so it's an interesting strategy. I'm not understanding why people are just trading away really good running backs for lower picks in the draft. We look at the draft, and you look at 5th round, 6th round, 7th round picks. If you look at the top 10 of all time in those picks, there are some big names, but they're not necessarily a bunch of Hall of Famers. Tom Brady's the exception to the rule, of course. But I find this an issue that they're getting rid of really good players for low value. Some could argue, hey, this is a salary cap thing, this is a money thing. But in the context of Jordan Howard, he's pretty young, Chris. And so I think it's a lopsided deal. Eagles win here. I don't know where the Bears are going, because when I look at Tariq Cohen, I don't see a 3-down back. So I'm just kind of questioning the direction of their running game in the future. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting topic because, off the bat, you see a 6th-round pick. What are you going to do with a 6th-round pick? Where is this coming from? And you kind of look at a lot of the moves this offseason, and you look at a guy like Deshaun Jackson, right? So he goes for a 6th and a 7th to the Eagles. And, Deshaun Jackson still can play. He's a little older. And you just got a lot of these guys that are saying, where are these teams thinking about? We're trading this good player away who we know can produce. Mm-hmm. He might be a little old. He might have a contract, but we know he can produce. And we're only getting a 5th, 6th in return. So where's the value? So I think one of the reasons behind kind of why these teams are doing this is I think at the end of the day it's about the cap space. Is some of these older players, they're either at the end of their contract or they have a big contract, and the teams say one of two things. Either one, we need to get value out of him today. In the case of Jordan Howard, he had 1 year left on his deal. He was coming into the 4th year of his rookie contract. And it looked like through Matt Nagy's offense last year, they were kind of working in Tariq Cohen more. They weren't going to get as much use out of him. Might as well get as much value out of him as they can now. Before next year, they just let him go to free agency for free. And then also you got to look at cap space. And a guy like Deshaun Jackson going to the Bucs. They had, I think, the league's lowest cap space. They had around $1 million. Shipped Deshaun off, even though they only got a 6th in return. They were able to free up $10 million in cap space. So some of the stuff you look at off the bat, off the top, you say, what are these teams doing? They're getting nothing for these proven players. It makes sense. They're trying to make the dollars work. So I can see the viability of getting rid of some of these guys, even though it might hurt kind of in the short run. They're looking for a future, trying to maximize the value of their picks. So I think that's kind of the direction some of these teams are going.
Yeah, I agree with you, Chris. One thing I'm thinking about is if I was a GM or a coach and I kind of ran the team, is how often would I consider giving up a 6th, a 7th, and maybe even a 5th for those 1-year rentals? Yeah. We saw Golden Tate, originally on the Lions, went to the Eagles for a 3rd-round pick. The Lions had no intention of signing him. It was a great trade by them. The Eagles said, hey, we're going to take a 3rd-rounder and basically have a rental out of Golden Tate. And it turned out to be an okay trade for them, but definitely the Lions got the better end of the deal, assuming they kind of hit on that draft pick. But when we look at rentals, as a team like the Eagles, who kind of are renting running backs in some regard, I don't think it's necessarily a bad strategy to take a running back towards the end of their deal, later in their contract, for 1 to 2 years, maybe even 3 years, for a 5th or 6th round pick. Because what we're finding is that 5th and 6th round picks are rarely starting and making an impact on the field. It does happen, but not that often. So if I could get a solid player like Jordan Howard to get in my running back rotation for essentially 1 year, if they don't intend on signing him, for a 6th round pick, that's a good rental deal in my opinion.
Yeah, you kind of question why teams don't do this more.
Yeah.
You look at your 5th, 6th, 7th round picks. Most of the time, like you said, they're not going to be great guys anyway. Occasionally you'll hit on a guy where maybe he's, a 3rd down type of DN who comes in every now and then. But a 5th, 6th, 7th round guy, you might as well try, if you have a little bit of cap space, to kind of make some magic, see who you can get, because it seems like GMs these days are just trying to offload a lot of these contracts. So if you can have cap space like the Jets had this year, like some other teams with a lot of cap space, you might want to go out and make some splash moves. It seems like it's kind of the direction that could work for teams. I don't know. I mean, is that something that 5th, 6th, 7th is that anything that's worth trading for?
Yeah, and I think context is king here. If you're a team that is on the brink of making the playoffs or on the brink of getting to that Super Bowl or AFC Championship, I think dumping later picks for these players is an incredible move. But if you're a team like Tampa, where there's not total direction right now, maybe keeping those picks and gaining those picks and dumping some of the veterans is the right move. Because Tampa, if they're smart, Bruce Arians doesn't think they're going to win this year, but maybe next year or down the line in the future, he could use those 6th, 7th round picks to develop quality backups very cheap. Deshaun's not going to be there when they win the big game, so why don't we get rid of him now and, again, get value, clear cap, and start to develop young players. But if you're a good team, I think it's great to add a player like that. We see the Rams did it last year on their playoff push by getting Dante Fowler, just an extra edge rusher for relatively cheap. I thought it was a great opportunity, a great deal. And now you see the Rams not necessarily using trade bait, but also signing some of these older players at the end of their contract, end of their retirement, end of their year, for an opportunity to play like Clay Matthews.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I know you said earlier kind of teams with no direction like Tampa Bay. I just kind of want to throw you a little curveball here. Odell Beckham to the Browns.
Yes.
For a 1st, 3rd, and 5th. So, Giants, they're going to take on $16 million in dead cap this year. They have a league-high $33 million in dead cap. They got a 1st, 3rd, and a 5th, and Jabril. Was that worth it, getting those picks for a player like Odell, or are they just kind of in hot water? Do they have no clue what's going on, essentially?
Yeah, definitely multiple layers to every acquisition. And you look at a guy like Odell, and he's not a troublemaker. He is not necessarily a bad guy, but he is a distraction. And distractions can be good people, great people as well. You look at Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow was a distraction. Did you ever think he was going to get arrested at a bar? No. Was he ever going to get a fight at a club? No. But he was a distraction. And so his value decreased because of his distractions off the field. And so the Giants would argue he is a distraction. We are rebuilding. If we're not winning and every SportsCenter clip is Odell fighting a kicking net, then this is not what we need on our team. And so shipping him off, I think, was a good decision for the context of where they are. But from a trade value standpoint, by far the Browns got the better end of the deal. Yeah. Jabril is an underperforming safety prospect out of Michigan. I really liked him out of college. And I have a theory that playmaking safeties can't be playmaking safeties without good corners around them. Yeah. Because if they don't have good corners, then they have to cover over top. They have to double cover. And that doesn't give them an opportunity to just sit back, read the quarterback, and jump routes. And so I see Jabril going to a New York team. I don't see their defense established where he can thrive. So I think his value doesn't go up. I think it stays the same. Rookie contract's going to be up in a couple of years, and you're either going to pay him or get rid of him. So the key is the Giants are going to have to hit on these draft picks. But
Yeah.
as a big Odell fan yourself, do you think the Browns got the better end of the deal, or do you think the Giants got the better
Yeah, I
end of the
mean,
deal?
come on, it's obvious. If you have any clue about football, you know the Browns got the better end of the deal. Odell's a playmaker, no matter what you say. And I hate the move by the Giants. He was the guy in New York. He's the guy you look at. He sells all the jerseys. He sells the tickets. He brings in the fans. How can you trade a guy like that, even after getting Saquon, who's probably, I guess, going to try and fill his shoes? They're going to let Eli stick around, even though he can't throw a football more than 10 yards. They trade away OBJ. I mean, they just have no direction. They're taking on all this dead cap. It is just unbelievable what the Giants are doing. They're honestly just running the franchise into the ground, if we're going to be honest. To trade a personality like that is terrible. And when you're going to have a bad team, and you know you're going to want to have a bad team, you got to have at least one or two guys that we can say, all right, we'll put this guy's face on a billboard. We'll put this guy's face, on the cover of the magazine to sell programs, and we'll get fans in the stadium that way. But they don't have anybody. They got Eli, who's sitting back there, who's got 2 seconds to throw the ball. They got Saquon. They're going to stack the box with 8-9 guys every play. It's going to be abysmal year for the Giants. I just don't see them digging out of the hole. They have so much dead cap. Who knows what they're going to do? Maybe they can work some magic in the draft, but I mean, it was just clear that the Browns won the trade. They're going to be hot to look out for in the AFC North this year. As a Baltimore fan, it's going to be tough playing Cleveland twice a year. But, you got to give hats off to John Dorsey in Cleveland. They did a great job helping out Baker, and they're going to be a force to reck with there in the AFC North.
Yeah, John Dorsey kind of had the cheat code. It's like getting the best team in Madden. He kind of got to take over the Browns with a ton of draft capital, a ton of draft space. A ton of draft capital and a ton of draft space. And what we found is he got to fire Hugh, hire his own man, and add all these acquisitions for the Browns. And now they're in a position to potentially win the AFC North. And speaking of AFC North teams, I want to talk about our beloved Baltimore Ravens. Go Ravens all day. Lamar Jackson, here we go. Baltimore, changing of the guard. Ozzie Newsome, longtime GM for the entire Baltimore Ravens career. We have a new GM, Eric DeCosta. He's been around. He's been Ozzie's right-hand man. He is now the man driving the ship. And there's been a lot of controversy in Baltimore, not for the decision of him being the GM, but the decisions he's making as the GM. Chris, what do you think about Baltimore's offseason right now?
I think it started off slow. I'll be honest. I was doubting, and before all this, back the last 10, 15, 20 years, it was always, okay, we made a few, it looks like questionable decisions, but at the end of the day, it was okay. In Ozzie, we trust. Mm-hmm. I believe in Ozzie. He got us 2 Super Bowls. He built great teams, and it was always in Ozzie we trust. So now with kind of the changing the landscape, Ozzie's gone. It's like, okay, Eric DeCosta makes a couple questionable moves, lets a couple guys go. It's like, where's this guy going? So it started off Terrell Suggs leaves Baltimore. C.J. Mosley leaves Baltimore. We don't sign Le'Veon Bell. And I'll be honest, as a Ravens fan, it was a little questionable there for a little bit. But I do believe at the end, once you kind of get your 2020 vision, you look back and see all the moves that we made. I think at the end of the day, we came out on top this offseason. Getting Mark Ingram, getting Earl Thomas. I was high on the Le'Veon Bell train. I thought he was going to be a great signing. Looking back at it now, it just doesn't make sense to sign a running back like that to that big of a contract. The Ravens this offseason, I don't believe that we really should have signed Le'Veon Bell. I think giving that much money to a running back when we really needed to focus, when we're more of a defensive-minded team in the first place, and offense is kind of let's just build around the rookie quarterback that we have. I think it was a great move. Put all your money into defense. Give it to Earl Thomas. We really need a playmaker on defense. Last year, I don't know the exact number, but a league low in interceptions, I want to say, for the Ravens. It just seemed like they didn't make the plays on defense that they normally do. And I think if Earl Thomas is healthy, he's going to be great. You look at Mark Ingram, a solid running back. Lamar Jackson, with that type of quarterback that we have, we don't necessarily need a superstar running back. We just need a guy who can go with solid carries and be a good complement to Lamar. So overall, I think it was a great offseason. I'm excited for the draft to see what DeCosta can do, and I'm really looking forward to the season.
Yeah, when I look at Baltimore, the number one move that no one is talking about that the Ravens pulled off was the demotion of Marty Morningwig.
Yeah.
No one's talking about it. He got demoted. They said, we're going to go with Greg Roman. Marty, in his pride, said, I'm going to walk away. I get it. Get him out of here. Terrible offensive coordinator. I don't feel bad. He made millions of dollars to make bad decisions. He can be a weatherman. So when we look at Greg Roman, we look at a guy who created the pistol offense around Baltimore, not the founder of it. He was the one who drew up the schemes, and Marty just called the plays. It makes sense that Greg Roman is the now full offensive coordinator. None of this run game coordinator, none of this assistant does this behind the scenes stuff. He's out in front. He's creating the offense, and he's calling the plays. Years ago, I kept saying the second we get Dean Pease away from that defense, the Ravens defense is going to take off with an aggressive coordinator. We got Don Wink Martindale, and they turned it up. The same starting lineup on defense, and they went from top 10 defense in the league to number 1 defense in the league. I think it's going to be a similar situation with this offensive coordinator switch, where we're going to go from a mediocre offense to a top 10, maybe 12 offense in the league. I think Lamar has accuracy problems, but the good news is with our scheme, Lamar doesn't have to throw guys open. They become open based on his abilities of scrambling. So that's the number one move that the Ravens made this offseason. On top of that, I love the play of Earl Thomas. I love the style of Earl Thomas, and I love the contract that we gave him. Most of the guaranteed money all up front. So if he doesn't work out, we have cap space the next couple of years. If he doesn't work out, we cut him. We move on before Lamar needs a contract, before some of our young playmakers that hopefully we draft this year and some of our guys that came along from last year need to get re-signed, that we have the money to do so. I see him as a playmaking safety, and he already has good corners, so he can stay in the middle of the field and make plays. Big fan of that signing. Mark Ingram, what it's going to come down to is guaranteed money. If you know what guaranteed money he got, please let us know. I could not find it. I know it's $15 million for 3 years. I don't know what's guaranteed. If there is not a lot of guaranteed money, I find that as a good signing. Yeah. I'm not high on him as a player, but he's not costing us a lot. And I think he's going to have a great season based on our scheme. I think you could add any NFL running back, and they would have a solid season on that scheme. He's no Le'Veon Bell, but I like the direction of the offense under Greg Roman.
No, I agree. And I think another kind of under-the-radar signing that a lot of people aren't looking at is Nick Boyle. And he was signed kind of early on in free agency. There wasn't a lot of buzz going around yet with the Ravens. But this guy, Nick Boyle, is one of the, if not the best blocking tight ends in the NFL. And when we're talking about the Ravens offense that we're going to see this year, it's going to be a lot of run. So to have a guy like that and be able to lead block essentially for Lamar, I think that's going to be an unbelievably underrated signing that we get to keep him around. And that's one of those guys that really flies under the radar because he's not going to make the big touchdown plays. He's not going to be a big tight end in the passing game. And that's where you kind of get that notoriety and publicity. But he's in there. He's in the trenches. He's doing a lot of the dirty work. So I love that signing, obviously, getting him back. And we got him for a good deal, so I can't complain. And I think that's going to be a great deal for our offense this year.
I would argue best tight end combination in the league between Boyle, Hurst, and Andrews. Yeah. Hurst, not that great of a first year. A lot of upside. Do you like him coming into a second year?
I mean, come on. I'm wearing the South Carolina shirt. I got to represent my boy Hayden. He was a playmaker at South Carolina. He was the only tight end I've ever seen in college run a jet sweep. This guy was just an athlete. It's crazy for that size and that kind of build that he has to be able to move like he does. His first year with the Ravens, he got off to a bad start with his ankle injury, and it's really tough with that offense with the type of playmaker that he is to kind of get kind of get used to the offense like they have it now. But a full offseason, a full healthy offseason, I think all year working with Lamar, he's going to be the guy to look out for and really to stretch the field for the Ravens with the type of athlete that he is.
Big fan of him. Big fan of him. So when we're talking NFL, the NFL also makes changes, not just the Baltimore Ravens.
Yep.
Big decision happened last week. NFL will allow challengeable pass interference calls. How do you feel about this, Chris?
Hate it. I hate it. I'm not a fan at all. Here's why. End of the game, Hail Mary pass thrown up, I'd say 99% of the time. There's a pass interference on a Hail Mary, am I right?
Absolutely.
So I cannot wait till this all just falls into shambles when it's a crucial game. It's Monday Night Football.
Mm-hmm.
We got, who knows in the booth at this point, but it's going to be
Jay Gruden next year.
No, it's going to be a calamity when it's a clear pass interference on a Hail Mary type play where they never throw a flag. Hail Marys, they just let the boys play. That's how it should be. It's going to be a mess when they go up to the booth and say, you know what, we can review pass interferences now. We're going to have to change this to a penalty, put the ball on the 1, changes the game. I think it's bad for 2 reasons. One, it is going to slow down the game unbelievably much. I mean, the way that replays are now, if there aren't enough plays to challenge, we're just adding more. And, they want to milk those TV commercials as much as they can. So, of course, the NFL is for more replays. But 2, it's going to change games that it really shouldn't. And the Saints game, yeah, it was a bad call. Yeah, it was in a huge situation. But that's such an unlikely event ever to happen. That's such an outlier that I don't think you can make rational decisions about replay just on one play. So I'm personally not a fan of it. I really don't like it. And I'm at this point just waiting to see when what's all gonna blow up in the NFL's face.
Absolutely. It is April of 2019, and what is going to happen is that games are going to be super long because another replay option has been added, and when a bad call is decided because it was challenged for pass interference, and it goes to the headlines of SportsCenter, the headlines of Fox Sports, the headlines of all over because it was a bad reviewed call, we are going to repost this video during the football season and say, we told you so. This is an overreaction to a bad missed call in a playoff game. If you want to make this an option in the playoffs, I would be more for that. But this is a mistake. The NFL needs to go away from replay and stop adding replay. It's slowing down the pace of the game. It's making things more argumentative, and we're not seeing clear, concise decisions. It's a lot of, well, I could see it go either way. And that's not what the NFL needs. I understand trying to get the call right, but the refereeing is part of the game. The refereeing is always going to be imperfect. And trying to get everything right in a subjective game is a mistake. The better team will win 99% of the time. So let it go. Let the boys play. I want to reduce replay. I want to reduce turnover replay. I want to reduce just coaches' challenges to an extent. I want to see us go back to the old-fashioned, the referees are making the call. We have seen with turnovers that they let certain plays go because they can review it because it's potentially a turnover. And what we're finding is that they don't reverse the turnover call because there's not conclusive evidence and they have to stay with the call on the field. But it was a call they never would have made if replay was not an option on a turnover. And so we've seen these mistakes. We see more human error using replay than we do without it.
Yeah, and it's just tough because I like the way the NFL is doing, and they want to try and get it right. But the problem is when you try and please everybody, you end up pleasing nobody. So it's just transitioning. The NFL just wants it to be more of an offensive game, and they're going away from the defense. Obviously, they've changed all the penalties on helmet-to-helmet contact, which obviously is for player safety. But at this point, defensive players can't make tackles. And now they're making it so you can challenge defensive plays. So when you go to a replay, everything is going to look like a pass interference. Because let's be honest, corners, DBs, they're on guys, and if you slow down everything in the slow-mo, it's obviously going to look like a pass interference. So it's just making it harder and harder for the defense to play, and you really kind of, honestly, the losers in this situation are really the defensive players, and they're going to be just subjected to so much this year. And I don't know, I like the replay in general. I do like the turnover replays, but I just don't see this extra added element of replay really helping the NFL in the long run.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you, Chris Anderson.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. But, it's enough about the replay, enough about bashing the NFL. Let's try and lighten the subject a little bit. Probably one of the most, if not the most partied, most, I don't know, how do you describe them? The most obnoxious, crazy, unbelievably insane party animal NFL tight end we have ever seen.
We have a college boy locked into a Giants body.
Yep. He was unbelievable as a tight end. He was unbelievable off the field, dancing, clubbing, doing it all. Even after a Super Bowl loss, he was still at the club. Rob Gronkowski has unfortunately announced his retirement. John, how do you feel about this?
I'm sad. Gronk, great for the league, great for sports, a great follow on Instagram. Rob Gronkowski is an incredible tight end. I'm going to say, as of today, he is the best tight end of all time.
Really?
He was a mismatch nightmare. He could catch anything out of the air. The most touchdowns caught by a Tom Brady thrown ball is Rob Gronkowski. He is dominant. He could have dominated for any team. The only reason he went in the second round was injury concerns. People were concerned for his back. Would he be able to play? The Patriots took a chance, and they won. But what no one is talking about is that Gronk could also block. He was a complete tight end. He was a complete player. He was a lot of fun, and he was a joy to be around. I heard a story on the Adam Schefter podcast of one of these guys who is now a player personnel guy. He said, when I worked for the Chiefs and we brought Rob Gronkowski in for an interview when he was still at Arizona, we thought he was an incredible prospect, and everyone loves Rob Gronkowski. This is a loss for the league. This is sad, but he is going to go down as the greatest tight end of all time as of today.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Best tight end, hands down, no matter what. And I think what really sets him apart is he kind of changed the way that tight ends are looked at in the NFL. I feel like before, with the Tony Gonzalez, Antonio Gates, it was big guys, block first, and then, oh yeah, this guy can also make plays.
A possession catch.
Yeah, but then you look at Gronkowski, it was, this guy is a playmaker at first, but he can also block. Mm-hmm. So just the combination of the speed and size that he had, he was an absolute matchup nightmare. Do you put a linebacker on him? Do you put a safety on him? Do you put a corner on him? There was really no good matchup to cover Rob Gronkowski, and that's what made him so amazing. And the stats will show. I mean, he was unbelievable. Put up hundreds of yards. Put up 16, 17 touchdowns a year in his peak, and he was hands down the greatest tight end of all time, and it helped him having probably one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time throwing him the ball. But still, Gronk, you'll be missed. We love you, Gronk. You're a party animal. We respect the game. But John, last question about Gronk. What are the chances he actually does come back next year? Do you think that's a possibility?
It's definitely a possibility. I'm going to go ahead and say Gronk is done. He's been contemplating for years now. He's a guy who's frugal with his money, has tons of cash, no need to come back from a financial perspective. And I think he's a guy who's been begged to retire from his brothers. They want to see him healthy. He is an injury-prone guy. I think he's done. I think he's going to enjoy time with his family, his brothers, his friends, hanging out. But this is my prediction. In a couple years, we're going to see some sort of branding with Gronk. I don't know what business he'll get into, but we will hear of Gronk again. I think he's going to show his face on TV for a year, maybe two, at some point in the future, and then introduce his brand. He's way smarter than he appears, and I think he's walking away for good. What do you think about it, Chris?
Smart. I mean, I think he's about as smart as he looks. I don't know. I don't know about that one, but I don't know. I'd like to think he's going to stay away just because of all the prospects he has with he could join the WWE. There's been rumors with that. He could be. There's been rumors Monday Night Booth, but that's a little bit more of a stretch. He could have an acting career ahead of him going out to LA. So, the possibilities are endless for him. But for some reason, I always think guys like that, they just miss the locker room. They miss the camaraderie with the boys. I think there's a pretty good chance come week 12, week 13, he doesn't have to do training camp, doesn't have to go through the grueling days of September, October, November, comes in for the playoff run. I can definitely see that happening down the stretch for the Patriots to kind of give them that last little gasp of life, that last little, kind of push over the finish line. So I'm not putting it out of the realm of possibilities for Gronk coming back next year for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of predictions, let's talk NCAA tournament. Wild weekend. Duke goes down. Michigan State advances. Final Four. We have, I think it was 0.004% of ESPN brackets have this Final Four. We have Virginia, Auburn, Texas Tech, and Michigan State. Who do you got winning it all?
I'll be honest, as an SEC guy, obviously, I got to go with Auburn. I got to. And I'll tell you this, they play with this swag that it's tough to stop.
Contagious.
It is contagious. They got Bruce Pearl just sweating on the sidelines. He's sweating through his shirt. He's sweating through his suit. He's just a character on the sidelines. And then you got just guys that can shoot anybody out of the gym. They got guys that can just shoot, dunk, fast break. They play at this lightning pace. And it's going to be interesting this weekend, them playing Virginia. Is it Virginia? Yeah. So Virginia, I mean, they're slow
big,
pace.
Long.
They're going to slow them down. But Virginia this year has had problems with teams that can just shoot threes and shoot. So it'll be interesting to see the kind of bigs in Virginia and see if they can kind of guard up with these guys in Auburn. And I think the key of that game is going to be the pace of play. Virginia likes to take it slow. Auburn likes to get it up mighty fast. So it'll be interesting to see if they can kind of see what the pace of play is like. But I really like Auburn. I really like the swag they bring to the table. And I think if their threes are hitting, they're going to be unbelievable. But also the little baseline, the little extra factor they got going. Chuma Okeke tore his ACL in the Elite Eight game. He's going to be an unbelievable motivation for them. Similar to like the Kevin Ware back when Louisville won the national championship. I think he's going to give them that little spark, that little motivation that, do it for me, guys. I want to be out there, but do it for me, win me the natty. I think it's Auburn all the way.
Yeah, I'm going to jump on the Michigan State train, and I'm going to say this. If Michigan State can beat Texas Tech, they've won it all. This is their championship game. I'm concerned about a little bit of a step back in play. They just beat Duke, the number one team in the entire tournament. I could see them getting complacent and saying, all right, we got this, we're going to win it all. If they beat Texas Tech, that guarantees them the championship. I'll call it right now. If Texas Tech is able to upset Michigan State, I think it's anyone's bracket. Virginia has proven that they can get far in the tournament, which was a big step for them. Auburn is playing with nothing to lose. They're playing loose. They have no pressure on them. Texas Tech, what a great, incredible run. Michigan State, Tom Izzo just knows how to win. The people in Michigan, they look at their calendar. It goes January, February, Izzo, April. We all know it. They love Tom Izzo. Mediocre to above average in the regular season with the amount of talent he has. But in the tournament, the guy can coach. Quick segment about Tom Izzo. How do you feel about him screaming at his players as aggressively as he does?
I'm glad you brought it up. And I don't know if anybody saw Scott Van Pelt's little late night video, but one of the big things he said, and which I totally agree with, is don't be offended with things that don't concern you. And I thought that was interesting because a lot of the players that played for Tom Izzo and that currently play for Tom Izzo totally defended him. They said, that's Tom. That's how he coaches. We respect him. We look up to him as a coach. And how can you be offended if the guys that are grinding day in, day out with Tom Izzo aren't offended by that? If they were like, you know what, yeah, Tom stepped over the line, I'd be like, yeah, you're right. You played for him, you would know. But the players were totally fine with it. I'm okay with it. I think it was totally in line. If you have your certain qualities that Tom pointed out that, he wasn't doing kind of the four main things that he likes to coach. And if you're not, living up to that standard that he has, it's your problem for getting chewed out. I mean, that's up to you. You just got to hustle a little bit more. So I honestly, I don't mind it. That's how some people coach. And, a lot of people are getting soft nowadays. They don't want to get yelled at. But I'm honestly, I don't mind Tom yelling at his kids. What do you think?
I'm for it. Personally, I don't respond well to yelling. But, I mean, you should know what you're getting into. If you're going to play for him, you should know that this is part of who he is and what he's about. I have no problem with it. There is a line. You can't choke a player out. You can't punch a player. Yeah. But if he's just coaching him and it's not just verbal assault, which it didn't seem to be at all, then that's fine. He can get loud. He can get a little aggressive towards his players. That's a motivating factor. You know what you signed up for. Michigan State is not about bottom of the rung program. You could go somewhere else if you're not about it.
Yeah. End of the day, just don't be soft.
Don't be soft. I mean?
Just put your big boy pants on and just stop being so flaky. But thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That was our show. John, thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Always. Have fun watching our stuff. Appreciate likes, questions, comments, whatever. We'd love to interact and talk about what you want to talk about.
Yeah, of course. So just let us know, comment, subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can watch the full episode. Then, of course, our Instagram channel at Backyard Trash Talk. Put up different clips, put up different videos of just us talking. So if you could follow us, subscribe, let us know what we should talk about next week. Hit us up. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in.
Good night.
Peace.